It's 10 a.m. in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to Business Morning on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, yesterday, President Muhammadu Buhari and his team were at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa for the third edition of the Midterm Performance Ministerial Retreat. And all the ministers, top-level officers of the government were present, including the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. It was an opportunity for the Vice President to speak on some economic issues. The exchange rate and collaboration between MDAs were his major concern.
I think that one of the most important things is that there must be synergy between the fiscal and the monetary authority. That is absolutely crucial. We must be able to deal with the synergy. We must handle that synergy between the monetary authority, the CBN, and the fiscal side. Sometimes it appears that there is competition between this, especially on the fiscal side. If you look at some of the interventions, you will find that those interventions, there are interventions that should be managed by ministries. So the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment should handle MSME interventions and those kinds of interventions. And we should know what the CBN is doing. In other words, if the CBN is going to intervene in the MSME sector, it should be with the full cooperation and consent of the Ministry of Industries. If they're going to intervene in agriculture, it should be with full consent. So that synergy is absolutely important. The reason why it's important, aside from the fact that you cannot plan an economy in any other way, the more important thing is that sometimes you will get people who are benefiting more than once because we simply have no line of sight to what's going on one side. CBN doesn't know what we're doing. They don't know what we don't know what they're doing. So I think that is important. That synergy is absolutely important. And as for the exchange rate, I think we need to move our rates to a more reflective market, as reflective of market as possible. This, in my own respectful view, is the only way to improve supply. We can't get new dollars into the system where the exchange rate is artificially low. And everyone knows by how much our reserves can grow. So I'm convinced that the demand management strategy currently being adopted by the CBN, we need to rethink.
That promise.
Well, the management of the exchange rate, of course, has been in the news for a while. I'm sure the suggestions of the Vice President will be form a lot of topics in the coming days. Well, at the same meeting, the challenge of revenue concentration, which he believes must be urgently solved by the government in order to achieve economic resilience for Nigeria, was one of the views expressed by the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. Dr. Adesina also emphasized that the government must immediately tackle the country's debt challenge, particularly as it has to do with servicing and to revenue ratio, which currently remains at 73%.
Nigeria must decisively tackle its debt challenges. The issue is not about debt to GDP ratio, as Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio at 35% is actually still moderate. The big issue is how to service the debt and what that means for resources for domestic investments needed to spur faster economic growth. The debt service to revenue ratio for Nigeria is high at 73%. Things will, of course, improve as oil prices recover, but the situation has revealed the vulnerability of Nigeria's economy. To have economic resurgence, we need to fix the structure of the economy and address some basic fundamentals. Nigeria's challenge is revenue concentration. As the oil sector accounts for roughly 75% of export revenue, and according to the statistics of the Central Bank, 50% of all government revenue. What is needed for sustained growth and economic resurgence is to remove the structural bottlenecks that limit the productivity and revenue earning potential of the huge non-oil sectors.
Well, a whole lot of interesting views were expressed yesterday at that ministerial performance meeting, and I do know that it will form the crux of a lot of conversations in the coming days, especially here on this program and in Nigeria as a whole. Well, also another matter that is on the front burner is that for months now, the proposed sale of Kaduna Textiles Limited has gotten the attention of officials of the National Union of Textile Garments and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria, National Labour Union, and other players in the industry. This has been light on not just the sale of Kaduna Textile, but the textile industry as a whole. Well, we have with us the national president of the Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria, Mr. John Adaji, to tell us what's going on in this space. Good morning, Mr. Adaji. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being
Good
here.
to have you all the way from the north, yeah?
Yeah, thank you, from Kaduna.
Yeah, from
Precisely.
Kaduna.
Yeah.
So tell us what's going on. The governors are saying they want to sell this because, I mean, it's been described as comatose. So for a while now, so perhaps...
Thank you so much, and I think we will, on behalf of my union, commend the channel for this opportunity given to the union once again to air our views. It is worrisome. I say so because Kaduna textile industry happened to be the first textile industry in Nigeria and probably in West Africa, established in 1957 by just one man, the Sardauna of Sokoto, Sir Amadu Bello. And what were the intention? Is to add value to the abundant cotton produced in the north and to create job opportunity. And it's lamentable to say that 3 decades down the ladder, we have 19 governors that are more richer than one person that could not maintain their establishment. So it is bad that it is not being maintained. But it's even worse that our members, who are the workers of KTL, since 2002, that the factory shut down, have not been paid. And this is our concern. We have a responsibility to take care of the interests of our members. In 2005, precisely, we were in court, and there was a court judgment that in doing anything at all at that place, the first line of service should be the benefit and gratuity of the staff.
Okay, so, but let's talk about the productivity of the factory and of the textile industry generally. I mean, even your union talked about issue of patronage by Nigerians. Because if we say the factory is comatose, then something must have caused it. If they're not being paid, perhaps it's because there's no fund coming in, there's no liquidity, the factory is not making money. So those are the issues I think we should look at this time. What are some of those challenges and how do we get out of those?
Thank you so much. There are those things I refer to as some of the traditional problems, and arising from the signing up to WTO. That is the genesis. That is the beginning of the problem. There was the barrier of trade was removed, so you can take anything from anywhere to anywhere. And Nigeria found itself in this problem. Bearing in mind that at the time, textile sector was the largest employer of labor after federal government. And gradually, all of them just went under.
But is it the barrier of trade or the fact that perhaps Nigerians do not have enough confidence in the quality of the Nigerian-made textile?
Sometimes I listen to this argument in the media, and as an insider, I can tell you, I'm wearing what was produced in Lagos here. It's what I'm wearing. Nigeria cloth can compete with anyone from anywhere. And to buttress that point, I will let you know. In 10 years back, when the AGOA project was still on, Nigeria product was prominent in US. And for US to accept any product, you can count on the quality of it. So it's not about quality. But I can tell you one side of the problem in terms of issue of patronage. And this is the problem. The cost of production increasingly has gone up. And you have small goods and cheaper ones that are available. So it has nothing to do with quality at all.
Okay, so you're saying because of the cost of production,
yes,
it competes, with
so competition becomes difficult. Because one, if these clothes that have flooded in our markets come through the right channel, we don't have problem with it. By the time they pay tariff, pay other tax, pay transportation, the price will be fair enough to be able to compete. But they are small goods on daily basis.
But we have agencies that are supposed to watch out and guard the borders.
Thank you so much. That is where the challenge lies. A lot of actions, and I must commend President Buhari. And it will equally be an aberration, knowing fully that Kaduna is the second home of President Buhari, and knowing what Kaduna was because of textile sector. I think that it will be so disappointing if the sector did not revive under this administration.
But there's been a lot of effort. I know that I think last year there was a collaboration between the Garment and Textile Union with the CBN. There was a CBN intervention. So these things are supposed to revive the sector.
Thank you so much. That is why I started by saying I commend the current administration. They're putting in place many policies and actions. And amongst is the one you make references to. Fantastic job. The CBN governor is doing it. Prior to this COVID-19, I can tell you that the problem of cotton was almost single-handedly settled by CBN. They administered the seedling to the farmer, the cotton producers, and gradually we were recovering from the cotton problem before the COVID challenges. Then Bank of Industry doing a very wonderful job through financing. But that is one side of the problem. Commend President too for Executive Ochiri. That order is meant to encourage agencies of government to patronize.
Are they patronizing? Well, we have the order, we have the number, we have the paper, we have the policy, but are they patronizing? What kind of conversations are you having, in that aspect? If we say that the executive, the central bank, the financing house, the Bank of Industry are helping in the areas of finance, and then we're now left with the area of patronage. And, well, if we say that the government should lead by example, we should see MDAs and all that patronizing, what conversations are you having with them, and who are you having these conversations with?
Yeah, I think let me equally say this, that precisely 2019, July 23rd, we were in Aso Rock, which we had a face-to-face conversation with the Mr. President. And since then, I think the body language and actions has been towards commitment in reviving this. But I must equally say this, that some of these efforts were thwarted because of COVID-19. Otherwise, there were signals and some progress were actually made. I say so because it used to be on quarterly or yearly basis we used to count numbers of closures. But because of these measures, it has stopped. Even though there is no new one coming up, no revival, but the rate they were closing and the rate they were downsizing has reduced. So it is to the benefit of some of this action. But coming to the questions of where is the patronage, and that is what it is, at what percentage? It is understandable in Lagos here we have 2 factories that carry out some of this production for army and I think police. I am aware of that. But at what percentage? If Nigeria Army, Navy, Air Force, all the police, I can assure you that we'll get a revival up to 50% of the moribund textile.
So, are you having conversations towards that?
Yes, the discussion is on which we have a memorandum of understanding with the service chiefs already between the employers and them. And I think they keep improving. But beyond the service chiefs, we have other paramilitary. And we can go as far as to public school uniform. The miracle of South Africa is similar to these actions. In South Africa, there is a policy by South Africa, wear South Africa. I was privileged to attend their conference. And within 3 years, there has an increase of membership up to 50,000 direct jobs. So we can do more, because if we can't control the border, but we can control what we use. So that is why we keep trying to the government that what we say we should be seen to be doing it. So that our words should be matched with actions. And if that is done, a lot will still happen in the sector.
So in the case of Kaduna Textile, now, what do you want? What's going on there?
Thank you so much. Our position has just been very clear. And to say this, that it's not that we are so much interested in going to street. It has implications on resources too. So, again, we are abide in the spirit of social dialogue. As it is, the union has come of age. We want to put things on the table and discuss. But a situation that a single governor or some individual who want to go behind to sell the property, I think it's unacceptable. Our prayer is for them to revive the place. But if that is not possible, and you think you want to sell, then have a committee that all stakeholders are involved in the process. And transparency will be seen. Again, even if they want to save themselves and save us, which is equally my appeal on this table, what is the cost of these benefits? The total cost is around 700 million. Divide 700 million by 19 states. It is less than 40 million. It's not up to what they take to Dubai to shop.
Oh,
so if they do this contribution, pay off and do whatever you want to do with the property. We don't have a problem. So our prayer is whatever you want to do, first should be channeled, geared towards settlement of our members' benefits.
Okay. But if this factory were to be revived, what, from your perspective, would accelerate the revival of this particular Kaduna Textile Limited?
Yeah, increasingly, and let me say this, that government claim that government doesn't have hands in business. But government has a lot to do in creating enabling environment. They can partner with private sector. And they can bring that place back to life. As I speak to you, we have 4 of our members that are providing security to the remaining properties that are there. We pay them. So it's possible. Partnership with an investor, and they can revive the place.
Will you get the investor?
Yeah, like talking of enabling environment.
Okay.
Because Nigeria have seasoned business people. And even those who came to the country, it's not because they like your faces and my faces.
It's because they can make money.
It's simple like this.
All right, Mr. John Adaji, the National President of Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And we do hope, that the textile industry actually gets up, because it provides a lot of employment.
Very well.
And even represents national pride.
Very well.
So we do hope for the best, very best in that area. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
So we'll take a break now. After the break, we'll go to the commodities market. To join us is Business Morning on Channels Television. Welcome back. Oil prices edged lower earlier this morning, and just before we came on the show, it was back up. It dropped for the first time in 4 days, even though it has recovered that loss. Analysts had called it a breather after weeks of gain, fueled by a rebound in global demand that's contributing to energy shortages in major economies. Brent crude was down then by 6 cents to $83.59. Now I think it's about $83.60 or 70 cents a barrel. U.S. oil fell 13 cents to $80.39 a barrel, having also gained 1.5% in the previous session. Well, this volatility in the oil space needs some explanation. That's why we have Bolanle Agbaje from Financial Derivatives joining us. Bolanle, good to have you back. Been a while.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. So what's going on? What's driving this topsy-turvy movement?
Yes,
I mean, this morning alone, I think the price changed like 3 times.
Yeah, so obviously, it's unclear what investors are thinking at the moment. Some investors believe that oil prices would go as high as, $90, $100 per barrel. A lot of them are optimistic. Some, are more or less realistic that, if the U.S. pushes, Saudi to increase outputs, because right now we're seeing shortages in the gas market, which has, more or less increased the price of gas over the past few months. And, the other alternative is, oil. And, they understand that the only reason why oil prices are increasing this much is because, OPEC and OPEC Plus have decided to, stick to the output cut. Because they believe that, obviously you're seeing threats in the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy is, battling with, economic growth or supply disruptions, industry output.
And a lot of people are going back to coal now. China is doing more coal.
Yes.
South Africa, they were supposed to have switched, but they're being reluctant now.
Yeah, so that's what we call, cross elasticity of demand, when, you're having situations where you can't meet supply with a particular product. Most consumers would actually switch to the alternative. And, China is obviously doing the same, trying not to be heavily reliant on oil. Most of these policymakers are trying to move towards greener energy, although coal is more or less going backwards. But the price of oil is ridiculous at the moment.
And gas.
And, more incomes are not, matching up on that due to the fact that, COVID had, compressed most incomes of individuals within, several economies.
Yeah, not very good time. But I think it's also a good time, because when we say the price of gas and cooking gas in Nigeria now, that's no place to go to at the time. Is it the same?
Well, a certain percentage of, the gas is imported. So the exchange rate effects would be on that. But also I read that, some of the issues with gas obviously has to do with the fact that the government removed the, tax on LPG in 2018 and have decided to, roll that back in. So that has obviously affected, the price of LPG, as well as, the exchange rate pressures, as well as the fact that, the economy is quite tight. Cost has increased. So I'm sure the cost of even producing the cylinders, all of that has to be factored into the price of LPG at the moment. And we do expect that this price is likely to increase to as high as 10,000, naira for a 12.5 kg cylinder, which is ridiculous, I
hope we don't go back to coal and kerosene.
A high percentage of Nigerians are still using, coal and kerosene, especially kerosene. I still see kerosene being used.
So that means that those stoves, they'll come back into... Christmas is coming. We have a lot of cooking to do.
And gas is usually faster. But I'm sure Nigerians will survive with, kerosene. They always survive with the, other alternatives.
Because I was going to say that the issue of supply disruption has affected a lot of European countries, the UK and all that. Is it a problem here?
Well, it has always been a problem here. The only difference is that, COVID has just made the problem even more. We've had supply disruptions with the insecurity issues. We've had supply disruptions with the fact that there's lack of infrastructure. This 2022 budget is focusing heavily on infrastructure. That's something that we have lacked. And, that has more or less contributed to the high cost environment that we currently live in and have been living in for the past how many years. And so that has been there. So the supply disruptions that has happened or is still going on in other countries mostly had to do with, the fact that COVID came in and...
Yeah, but theirs is a bit different from ours. They're dealing with semiconductors, drivers,
Well,
it's not...
no, the UK is more or less different from, other European countries. The UK is also battling the Brexit issue.
Yeah, the Brexit
A lot
impact.
of those drivers were foreigners.
Yes.
And the fact that, Brexit happened, most of them left. So they have to now be faced with, getting the employment or the job filled by, the UK citizens, which
I think 2 weeks ago they had to give 5,000 drivers like compromise on the system to allow them to...
Well, they have also come up with the visas that, the temporary, which I don't think is motivative enough for some of those workers. But, so their issue is peculiar. It's obviously made their own situation worse than others.
Yes. And then FDC sees inflation up.
Yes.
Isn't it too soon? We're just about to relax and say, oh, yes, inflation is tapering.
It's not too soon, because usually the trend is within the Ember months, we should see, prices pick up marginally. But I think now it's more or less more difficult because, you also have the supply disruption issue. Particularly, you have the exchange rate pressure issue. And that's, the fact that we have a lot of our industrial output imported from countries abroad, that has also, made this situation worse. We're heavily dependent on imports, and that would be felt with the prices of commodities in within the economy. And also in particular, cocoa, for example, which we usually export, a lot of farmers have complained about the black pod disease, and this is because of the heavy rains and the fact that a lot of pests have destroyed some of their harvest. Although this is the harvest season, so we shouldn't really see prices increase to this level. Like the price of flour is about 21,000. The price of beans, for example, is about 40,000 naira per bag, which is ridiculous compared to what we had seen in the previous years. But yeah, we do see inflation bucking its trend for the month of September, and obviously going up from there.
Okay, we'll wait for the Bureau of Statistics to tell us what they actually say.
Yes.
And then the federal government has approved genetically modified maize. And this maize is resistant to armyworm, stem borers, and it's tolerant and moderate drought. This is good news for us, if we can use it well. Because I know we had a new type of cocoa, but we didn't seem to feel the impact even up till now.
Yes. I think the maize aspect, the maize one is being taken seriously. The fact that, although the ultimate test would be, when it's in the market, and, the individuals actually accept this particular, maize. Some people would probably be wary of the fact that, this is genetically modified. But at the end of the day, we've been lagging behind most countries. Most countries, in order to, break that divide between supply and demand, they've introduced technology. And that is exactly what Nigeria is doing at the moment. We've been, complaining about supply issues, especially within the country. We've decided to, import some of our maize, some of our, agricultural products, other agricultural products. So the fact that we're now using technology to close that gap between supply and demand.
Is it safe?
Well, so far so good. It's been tested. They've said it's been approved. So we have to trust that, the government is doing the right thing by approving this, particular product. But like I said, the ultimate test would be when it reaches the final consumers. And, most people don't actually tell the difference between, maize that is genetically modified and other maize that is, actually, cultivated.
How soon do we expect it to be in the market?
Well, we're not so certain for sure, but I'm sure sometime next year we should expect to see, this particular product rolling around the economy. So
is this under the federal government now? Has it been given to farmers? Is it farmers who are growing it? Has it been spread to all,
no, it has. I don't think it has, gone through those phases yet. But from what we understand, it's something that was developed in Ahmadu Bello University.
Yeah.
And, so it will take a lot of, checks for it to get, for it to be spread wild in the economy. So I think for now, they're still, although they've approved, they're still, following the right steps to make sure that, all that is done perfectly.
Okay, so what else is going on in the commodities market?
Well, we're still seeing that prices are increasing. It's all red for now, and I expect that it's going to be red till, the end of the year. Because obviously, apart from what we're facing now, we expect that, the increased demand for the Christmas period will also be felt, within the commodity space. Yeah, and obviously the insecurity issues are still going on. I'm sure the government is still working relentlessly to make sure that, that issue is solved.
So the president of the AFDB, Dr. Additional, during the minister's retreat yesterday, said something about this, that he believes that if farmers are being given good seedlings, fertilizer,
incentives,
that we could actually overcome some of these issues of insecurity, and these are the infrastructure, challenges that we're talking about.
Yeah, the issue is Nigeria is a highly populated country. So for us to meet the demand of, many Nigerians, or at least 80%, 90% of Nigerians, it has to be heavily capital intensive. So you need to introduce, technology as much as you can. You need to introduce, a lot of the bulldozers, for example, that they would need to make the, cultivation faster, and obviously increase the amount, of agricultural produce that is being made within the country as well. Obviously, right now we're still supplementing with those that we're importing abroad, but if we do produce ours within the country and able to export them, it will solve so many issues.
Especially the FX issue.
Even majorly the FX issue. Although we were seeing, increases in our external reserves, although we're not feeling the impact of the increases in oil prices as we should, because, we import a lot of this, refined crude. Hopefully, Dangote refinery would come very, very soon to solve that problem for us. Although one thing I need to mention is that we do expect, to see pump price increase in the nearest term, just because, the government is probably thinking of removing, these subsidies.
Yeah, but subsidy has been provided for in 2022, so I guess we can still hold the breath.
Well, we can, but I'm sure the prices will still have to, just to reflect, what is definitely happening in the market. I don't think it's realistic that we're still, buying fuel at 165 when, the price of crude has increased to as high as what it was in 2014.
I don't want to think about the consequences of that, especially here in Nigeria. Sometimes it seems even Nigerians try to exploit Nigerians. So if there's a ₦1 increase at the pump, then you go to the market, even eggs that are being laid here will be connected to the dollar and connected
it's called the negative multiplier effect. So that's, those are the negative aspects of, increasing or inflationary environment.
All right, thank you so much, Belani Agbaje, and welcome back. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
So it's time to do an opening call to the market now. Will Ebong is standing by. Will doesn't have very good news this morning, do you?
Good morning, Nini. I'm afraid I don't have good news for you, but it's still the market. It comes up and it goes down. So the equities market snapped last week's bullish performance, starting the week on a negative note as profit-taking activities witnessed in some Tier 1 banking stocks, Boer Cement, and Nigerian breweries undermined the market's performance. Yesterday, the all-share index dipped by 0.38% to 40,714 points, and accordingly, the month-to-date and year-to-date gains have moderated to 1.2 and 1.1% respectively. The total volume of trades declined by 42.2% to 191.31 million units. Value, there was also a corresponding drop in the value of transactions from 2.92 billion naira recorded in Friday's trading session to 2.59 billion naira, while the number of deals rose by 10% there. FBN, First Bank Holdings is still topping trades by volume. 24.15 million units of its shares were traded yesterday, while Boer Cement was the most traded traded stock by value at 359.35 million naira. And this was possibly triggered by investors' profit taking in these components. There was a mixed performance yesterday in the key sectors following the declines in the consumer and industrial goods indexes and gains in the banking. We had gains in the banking counter, insurance counter, but the consumer goods and industrial goods were down. Industrial oil and gas closed flat. The market sentiment, however, was somewhat neutral after the bell. But to give more insights, let's bring in Tajuddin Olayinka. He's a stockbroker at Valmont Securities Limited. Good morning, Tajuddin.
Yeah, good morning.
Tajuddin, equity seems to have halted its winning streak. Is the stock market bubble busting?
Okay. Well, I don't think there was even any bubble in the first instance. We should understand that the market has had an upbeat of about 7 trading sessions, beginning from 29th of September, until it was halted yesterday. So this resulted in about 5.17% gain over this short period. We saw that the combination of factors were responsible for this upbeat. These factors include successful Euro bond issuance that was oversubscribed, with more local investors, with offshore funds and local dollar balances participating. So this was an evidence that there were investors out there waiting in the wings, waiting for opportunities to come in the market, and they also take advantage. So that actually propelled local investors and traders to pay that audit. We saw the audit coming from some investors taking advantage of low prices in the market. So there was no bubble. It was not because prices were low. Market itself, even at this moment, is still undervalued. So it was that audit that also supported. That also attracted the traders to come in and ride the bull. It's actually traders that are actually getting the prices now, not the investors. The traders who normally will want to ride the bull, who of course naturally want to play the bear. So that is what is happening.
Okay, so you're talking about investors taking advantage of low prices, and that's bargain hunting in the market. But we probably observed that in the industrial counter. We don't know if that's the same activity going there, because Boa Cement has been muted for like more than a week now. There's been no movement in its share price. However, its share price dropped by 2.5% yesterday. What's going on there? Is it still profit-taking?
Partially profit-taking, but it's not entirely profit-taking. What is large cap stocks normally experience temporary liquidity challenge because of loss size. Loss size requirement before you can move price. And so investors who are locked in that particular stock will therefore take immediate exit once there is opportunity for them to sell. I think what happened yesterday was that there were investors who had not been able to exit that stock for quite some time because of liquidity challenge in that stock. And so they saw yesterday's liquidity that came to that market as an opportunity for them to exit. So they are the one that actually created that drop in price, because the stock price actually recovered slightly from where it dropped to before the close of market.
Okay. So what's your outlook for the rest of the week? We want to know your thoughts on this.
Given what we have seen over the last 8 trading sessions, we probably will still see a bit of a balanced market with more investors coming in, to take advantage of this new, the opportunity that the market avail itself. So we're likely to see a balanced market, in the next 1 week. Even though at this moment, market is still a bit on the path of recovery.
Thank you so much, Tajuddin, for those inputs. That's Tajuddin Olayinka, stockbroker at Valmont Securities. Now, on the flip side, activities at the unlisted market was bullish. The market closed positive yesterday as the NASD OTC security index increased by 0.39% to 740.7 points. However, the market capitalization dipped by 4.57%, knocking 29.3 billion naira off its value. At the same time, the NASD investors gained 1.23 billion naira. Taking the market capitalization. Okay, like I said, total volume of trades also was in the decline. 285,650 units were traded there at 5.01 million naira there, and all in 11 deals. Large cap stock price line Campina Nigeria was the only gainer at the close of trading. Its share price advanced by 2.37% to close at 120 naira 80 kobo. Now over to the fixed income market, we say that the bond market started the week on a mixed note, with sell-offs observed on the mid to long end of the curve. The 2036 and the 2050 bonds remain the most active in the market, trading at 12.8% and 13.13% respectively. Overall, the yields across the benchmark bonds closed 7 basis points higher than opening levels, giving investors weak appetite. Yesterday's trading also witnessed increased buying interest on both the Treasury bills market and the OMO market across the spectrum. The Treasury bills market traded between 6% and 6.2% for the levels for the June and August maturities, as we're seeing there. While the OMO spectrum was dominated with buying interest on the short-tenured bills, but with no sufficient supply to meet demand. Meanwhile, OMO maturity of 110 billion naira is expected to be credited to the system today, and so we expect some bullish interest as market participants look forward to Wednesday's trading bill auction. That's the first auction for the month of October, and where the central bank is expected to roll over the sum of 121.66 billion naira. We also see that there were some buying interest at the CBN for the CBN special bills. But it was not so much. We had just 3 billion naira there, and the interest rate was just about up 5.8%. So that's what we have for the market today. We're hoping for a better outcome.
Especially that auction that is up tomorrow. We'll certainly look forward to what comes out of it. As usual, I think it will be oversubscribed.
People are looking for where to invest and put their money in.
Where to get an edge
in the market. So I'm sure it would definitely be oversubscribed.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. Anyway, thank you so much, Will. Well, we'll take another break now. When we come back, we'll do an opening call to London. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. Well, let's have developments from the United Kingdom. Here's Juliana joining us from our London studios. Hello, Juliana. Good morning.
Good morning, Ine.
So there are talks that the Department for Business may get the Prime Minister's backing for a package to help in the midst of the gas prices. So what's this about? How is this supposed to work?
Yeah, absolutely. We discussed this yesterday, didn't we, Annie, about industry leaders left reeling because they believe that they've been left out of being protected by rising wholesale gas prices. They've risen over 425% this year alone. Now, customers and consumers are protected by the energy regulator Ofgem's price cap. No such thing for industry bosses. And there have been discussions over the past couple of days between them and the business secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng. Now, there was a spat yesterday because the business minister did say that he was speaking to Treasury officials. They went on the record and denied it, but there has been some progress. And according to reports, Kwasi Kwarteng has put a proposal forward to try and offer some sort of loans. This could be up to hundreds of millions of pounds to get these industries through the next few months. Now, we're talking about energy-intensive industries, so steel, ceramic, paper, minerals industries that are really, really struggling. There was one boss that said typically each year they would be paying £40 million for their bills. It could be rising to £100 million. Many of them can't afford to pay it. And one of the concerns is if they do shut down processing and their productions, it will be almost impossible for them to open. So we are expecting an update. Of course, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is on holiday. If you're a supporter, you believe he needs that time away. But many of his critics are saying it's just a bad time. However, it's always a bad time for a Prime Minister to go on holiday. But it's an ongoing discussion and one that's of serious importance.
And workers have more power to demand higher wages now as vacancies are at record high. But I think the other side of it is, do the employers have the liquidity to meet up with if they ask for higher pay?
Well, yes and no. I think, you know, the headline really out of this, Inni, is that Britain's labour market is tight. It's its tightest point in about 4 decades. We had data released this morning from the Office for National Statistics showing that employment and vacancies are at the highest they've been in, I believe, 25 years. So there are over 1,102,000 vacancies, and I think this labour shortage is really showing its ugly face across the economy. There are shortages everywhere. We saw that earlier on with the restaurants having to close at certain times because they didn't have the specialised skills. We saw that at the gas petrol stations with the British government having to roll in the army to deliver fuel, and we are starting to see it in other places. ASOS yesterday, in their trading update, they reported about these shortages, and it is starting to affect their businesses. In the 3 months to August, we have seen unemployment drop from 4.9% to 4.5%, something that, of course, is of great news to the Chancellor Rishi Sunak. But what about these vacancies, especially if people just don't have the skills to work in these jobs? So it's a massive headache for the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. Great that there are all of these jobs, but of course they need to be filled as soon as possible so the economy can start ticking as it typically does, especially in the run-up to Christmas.
I knew you would get to Christmas, Julian. I knew you would get there. Well, thank you so much, Julian. I'll talk to you later during Business Incorporated.
Thank you.
So let's do a little bit of crypto now. The market is still in the red, splashes of red, except for Bitcoin. The global crypto market cap is 1.31% less than it was 24 hours ago. This morning, it was $2.31 trillion. Total crypto market value increased, however, by over 3% to $104.41 billion. The total volume in DeFi is currently $12.45 billion. That's 11.92% of the total crypto market in 24-hour volume. The volume of all stablecoin is now $82.98 billion, and that's 79.47% of the total crypto market in 24-hour volume. Bitcoin is still the shining star. The price as at 9 a.m. was $57,326.58. That's almost 1% increase in 24 hours. Well, little wonder that El Salvador, which adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender I think about a month or more ago, has gained $4 million in just 2 weeks. We'll talk about that later. Bitcoin's dominance is currently 46.79%, an increase of 1.06% over the day, but the 24-hour volume dropped $40.28 billion. The price of Ethereum continues to fall, shedding 3% in 24 hours. It's now less than 3,500 that we were celebrating some days ago, but the 24-hour volume was up about $17 billion. Top gainers, mostly the stable coins, so the altcoins are down. Cardano is in the red, over 6%. Binance coin down. XRP down. Solana down. Polkadot down. Wow. Well, I think Rume should tell us what's going on in the market. Hello, Rume. Rume is joining us to share his thoughts on the markets this morning. Hello, Rume. Good morning.
Hello, Indy. It's my pleasure to be here again. I know you said down, 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 down.
Yes, I mean, all the odds are down. I mean, a colleague came to meet me. Are you sure Polkadot is down, Cardano is down? What's going on with the odds? It's going on for too long.
All right, Bitcoin is actually doing a lot. A lot of funds have been going into Bitcoin. I was reading something some days ago which says that about 5 months ago, those having huge amounts of Bitcoin have refused to sell, which means they have seen Bitcoin as a digital gold, as a store of value. You know, these wallets that are holding huge amounts of Bitcoin are up with profits of about $754 billion. So when everybody's attention is on Bitcoin, for example, all of the altcoins tend to bleed, and bleed really hard because everybody tends to go to Bitcoin. But in a distant time, we begin to see profits flow in from Bitcoin to bigger market caps, $1 billion to medium to micro. So hopefully in a short period of time, but pending when the Bitcoin market dominance drops down. But the fact that it's going up is about 64.5 this morning, and all attention is on Bitcoin. People are running away from the odds. and they're putting all their funds in Bitcoin. I think that is the reason why. Also, it's better.
So for those who have the alt already now, what should they be doing?
Those who have the odds already, if you ask me, they should change their money to stablecoin. If possible, then the celebration of Bitcoin movement, because as the market is really excited, we tend to forget other altcoins, because Bitcoin, the flagship cryptocurrency, is the king, and it's proven itself to be the king of all. So it is good we take part of Bitcoin, and we can pull our later to altcoins. But for now, let's try to manage.
Well, El Salvador is not managing. They've made $4 million in 2 weeks. I wish Laddie was here to take back his words.
Yeah. Well, here we are. As foresight, I know with time, some others are going to join. I also believe, I don't know, that Nigeria is going to join. I don't know. I have this very firm belief in the future. El Salvador is doing really good things, and they actually made Bitcoin a legal tender, and around now, about 3 million of them, in their population about 6.4. I know one very funny part is that a lot of them are outside the shores of their country, and remittances are increasing, and so we just applied. They bought about 700 BTC, and the price have actually increased, got a profit of about $4 million, of which $4 million, of which they are saying part of it will be used to develop a veterinary hospital for them. There's this discussion around why the veterinary hospital for their animals be used for other things, maybe for agricultural events and some other things. Some other things that would have done other infrastructure, but I think the authorities know what they are doing, and I believe they are really working hard to make sure that the lives of the people are actually using their wallet. So they have a system, they have a wallet system there that is unique to them called Shivo. And away from that, I just need to put this in. The country, Venezuela, is actually saying that they are one of their airports, Maquicha Airport. The director was saying something this morning that they'll be accepting Bitcoin as for booking of flights. And I know it's going to also increase the sentiment on Bitcoin. So the world is heading towards digital currency, and a lot of people should not ignore that fact. Bitcoin is money, and it's still value.
Well, I mean, in Nigeria, we have our e-naira coming up, so come on. We're already embracing the new normal.
I don't
come on.
E-naira, good, if it is what is good, but I really don't. I have my opinion around centralized money. I'm a decentralized entity, to ask me, when it comes to doing things.
Don't worry, we're starting off somewhere, and we will make it work. It's ours. We'll make it work.
All right, hopefully it should be.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Rume, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right,
well, that's
thank
it.
you very much.
Yeah, well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of it today. This Tuesday, we'll do it again tomorrow, God's grace. But at 1:30, Business Incorporated will bring you updates from the world of business. I'm Ini John Mekwa.